The stars burned cold and distant in the observation deck of the monitoring station. Commander Sarah Mitchell stood with her hands clasped behind her back, watching the endless void beyond the reinforced glass. The station hung in space like a silent guardian, marking the edge of human territory. For 3 years she had commanded this remote outpost, and for 3 years nothing remarkable had happened, until today. "Commander, we have multiple contacts entering Sector 7, Lieutenant Park called from his station. His voice carried an edge of concern that made Sarah turn immediately. "How many?" she asked, moving toward the central display. 47 ships, ma'am. No, wait, 52 now. They're still coming through the jump point." Sarah felt her pulse quicken. In all her years of service, she had never seen more than 3 ships travel together. 52 was a fleet. She studied the display as the contacts resolved into clearer signatures. The ships were large, far larger than human vessels, and their energy signatures were unlike anything in their database. "Are they responding to hails?" Sarah asked. "Negative, Commander. They're broadcasting on all frequencies, but it's not directed at us. It appears to be a general announcement." Park worked his console, filtering through the signals. "I'm getting a translation now. They're calling themselves the Galactic Council." The words hung in the air like a pronouncement of doom. Sarah had read the classified reports, the theories and speculation from the diplomatic corps. The galaxy was full of life, full of civilizations that had banded together under a single banner. Earth had known about them for decades, ever since the first deep space probes had picked up their transmissions. Humanity had made a choice then, a deliberate decision to remain hidden, to expand slowly and carefully into empty systems far from the established powers. "What are they saying?" Sarah asked. Park listened to his headset, his expression growing darker. "They're announcing their arrival to what they call the primitive human civilization. They're demanding we submit to their authority and accept their guidance. They say it's for our own good, that all species must join the council or face isolation and sanctions." Sarah felt a cold anger settle in her chest. She had read enough history to know how this story usually ended. A powerful group arrives, declares themselves superior, and demands submission. It never ended well for the ones being told to submit. "Get me a direct line to Fleet Command," Sarah ordered. "Priority Alpha." Within minutes, the face of Admiral Helena Zhao appeared on the main screen. The Admiral was a woman in her 60s with silver hair pulled back in a tight bun, and eyes that had seen more than most people could imagine. She had fought in the colony wars, had commanded the defense of Mars during the Separatist uprising, and had earned her position through decades of hard decisions. "Commander Mitchell," the Admiral said. "I've seen the reports. The Council is here." "Yes, ma'am. They're demanding we submit to their authority." The Admiral's expression didn't change, but something cold flickered in her eyes. "We knew this day would come. We hoped it wouldn't, but we prepared for it." She paused, looking off-screen at something Sarah couldn't see. "The civilian government has authorized me to deliver our response. Are the Council ships still broadcasting?" "Yes, Admiral. They're getting closer to the station. I estimate they'll be in visual range within the hour." "Good. Transmit this message on all frequencies. Make sure they receive it clearly." Admiral Zhao sat up straighter, her hands folded on her desk. When she spoke, her voice was calm, measured, and absolutely certain. "This is Admiral Helena Zhao of the United Earth Space Command speaking on behalf of humanity. We acknowledge your presence and your message. However, we must respectfully decline your offer to join your Galactic Council. Humanity has chosen a path of peaceful isolation. We have no interest in your politics, your territories, or your conflicts. We ask only one thing: stay away from Earth. Stay away from our colonies. Stay away from our space. This is not a negotiation. This is not a discussion. This is your only warning. Stay away." The message ended. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. It was simple, direct, and left no room for misunderstanding. The Admiral had just told the most powerful organization in the galaxy to leave humanity alone. "Transmit that immediately." The Admiral continued. "And, Commander, begin evacuation procedures for the station. If they don't listen, I want your people safely away before things get difficult." "Admiral, what if they respond with force?" Helena Zhao smiled, but it wasn't a pleasant expression. "Then they'll learn why we asked them to stay away." The transmission ended. Sarah turned to her crew, who were all staring at her with a mixture of fear and excitement. "You heard the Admiral. Begin evacuation procedures. Everyone on the transport ships within the hour. Park, transmit that message now." As her crew scrambled to follow orders, Sarah watched the approaching council fleet on the display. They were beautiful ships, she had to admit. Sleek and elegant, decorated with what looked like ceremonial markings. They moved with the confidence of beings who had never been seriously challenged. The message transmitted across all frequencies. Sarah imagined it reaching the council ships, imagined the aliens listening to humanity's simple warning. She wondered if they would be wise enough to heed it. On the lead council ship, Ambassador Krelnax listened to the human transmission, with his head tilted in confusion. He was a tall being, covered in blue-gray scales with 4 eyes that could see across multiple spectrums. He had served the council for 200 years, bringing dozens of primitive species into the fold. None of them had ever refused before. Did they just warn us? His aide asked, her voice high with disbelief. Krelnax made a sound that was the equivalent of laughter in his species. It appears they did. How charming. They think they can dictate terms to the council. Should we withdraw, Ambassador? The humans seem quite serious. Withdraw? Krelnax spread his arms wide. From a species that has barely left their home system? A species that still uses chemical rockets for basic transport? No, we will not withdraw. We will proceed to their home world and help them understand their place in the galaxy. It is our duty to guide lesser species even when they resist. He turned to his fleet commander. Continue on course. Ignore the warning. These humans will learn respect soon enough. The fleet moved forward, leaving the human monitoring station behind. Sarah watched them go from the window of the last transport ship, her crew safely aboard. She felt a knot of tension in her stomach. The council had ignored the warning. Somewhere in the darkness ahead, humanity waited. The council fleet sailed toward Earth like proud ships heading into unknown waters, confident in their superiority, certain of their righteousness. They had no idea what was coming. Sarah closed her eyes and whispered a prayer for the aliens. They had been warned. They had been given a chance to turn back. Whatever happened next would be on them. The transport ship accelerated away from the station, leaving the frontier behind. Behind them, deeper in human space, Admiral Zhao watched the council fleet advance on her tactical display. She picked up her command tablet and entered a single authorization code. Across human territory, silent systems began to wake up. Systems that had been sleeping for decades, waiting for this exact moment. The humans had warned the council to stay away. The council had not listened. The gas giant Jupiter hung in space like a painted marble, its great red storm swirling across the surface in eternal fury. Captain Marcus Chen stood on the bridge of the frigate Defiant, watching the massive planet through the forward viewport. His ship was small compared to most military vessels, designed for speed and reconnaissance rather than direct combat. But today the Defiant had a different mission. Captain, the council fleet is approaching. Lieutenant Torres reported from the sensor station. 50 ships, just like the intelligence report said. They'll be in visual range in 10 minutes. Marcus nodded slowly. He was a young captain, only 35, but he had earned his command through skill and a calm head under pressure. Today would test both. He pressed the ship-wide comm button. All hands, this is the captain. The council fleet is almost here. Remember your training. Stay calm, follow procedures, and trust the system. We're not here to start a fight. We're here to end one before it begins. He released the button and looked at his first officer, Commander Rachel Kim. She met his eyes with a steady gaze. Think they'll listen this time? She asked quietly. No, Marcus said, but we have to try. The council fleet emerged from behind Jupiter's moon Io like a swarm of massive insects. Their ships were indeed impressive, each one easily 5 times the size of the Defiant. They moved in a perfect formation, a display of military precision meant to intimidate. At the center of the formation was the flagship, larger than the rest, decorated with golden symbols that probably meant something important in council culture. They're hailing us, Torres said. Put them through. The main screen flickered to life, showing Ambassador Krelnax in all his alien glory. His 4 eyes focused on Marcus with what might have been curiosity or contempt. It was hard to tell with alien expressions. Human vessel, Krelnax said, his voice translated by the computer into perfect English. You are ordered to stand aside. We are proceeding to your home world to begin formal diplomatic relations and integration protocols. Do not interfere. Marcus took a slow breath. Ambassador Krelnax, I am Captain Marcus Chen of the United Earth Space Command. You were given a warning to stay away from Earth and human space. That warning still stands. Turn your fleet around and leave our system. This is your final opportunity. Krelnax's scales rippled in what the translation software identified as amusement. Captain Chen, you command one small ship. I command 50 vessels of the Galactic Council, the most powerful organization in the galaxy. We have brought peace and order to 1,000 worlds. You cannot stop us, and your warning is meaningless. Stand aside or we will move you aside. Marcus felt a strange calm settle over him. This was the moment. Everything that had been built, everything that had been prepared, all came down to this decision by an arrogant alien who thought power was measured in ship size. Ambassador, please listen carefully. Humanity asked you to stay away for a reason, not because we fear you, but because we want to avoid what's about to happen. Turn around now, please. You test my patience, human. Weapons officer, target that ship. Disable it. Let us show these primitives what happens when they challenge the Council. Marcus saw the weapons locks activate on his tactical display. 50 ships all targeting the Defiant. Any one of them could destroy his frigate in seconds. He reached for his command console and entered a single authorization code. Admiral Zhao sends her regards, Marcus said quietly, and her apologies. He pressed enter. For 3 seconds, nothing happened. Krelnax was probably about to give the order to fire. His weapons officer was probably checking targeting solutions. The Council fleet was probably feeling very confident about their overwhelming superiority. Then the asteroid belt came alive. What the Council had dismissed as empty space suddenly filled with contacts. Hundreds of them, thousands of them, automated defense platforms that had been hiding in the asteroids, on the moons, in the debris fields. Platforms that had been placed there over decades, sleeping silently, waiting for this exact moment. They didn't fire immediately. Instead, they moved. In space warfare, position is everything. The Council fleet was tightly grouped, a formation designed to look impressive and coordinate attacks. It was also a terrible defensive position. The human platforms surrounded them in seconds, moving with impossible precision. The Council ships tried to react, tried to turn, tried to activate their shields. They were too slow. The platforms fired. Not lasers, not missiles, not any weapon the Council had seen before. Streams of what looked like silver mist shot from each platform, crossing the distance to the Council ships in microseconds. The mist touched the hulls and spread like liquid, covering engines, weapons, communication arrays. Wherever it touched, systems died. In the Council flagship, alarms blared across every station. Krelnax watched in horror as his ship's systems failed one by one. Engines offline. Weapons offline. Communications offline. Life support still functional, but everything else simply stopped working. What is happening? He shouted. What did they do to us? His science officer stared at her console with wide eyes. Ambassador, it's nanomachines. Billions of them. They're dismantling our systems at the molecular level. Our shields are useless against them. They just pass right through. Across the Council fleet, the same scene repeated. Massive warships that had ruled space for centuries suddenly became floating debris. Not destroyed, not damaged enough to kill their crews, but completely disabled. Dead in space. 47 seconds after Marcus had pressed enter, 49 Council ships were powerless. Only the flagship remained functional, its systems untouched by the attack. The Defiant remained exactly where it had been. Weapons still offline. Engines at standby. Marcus pressed the comm button again. Ambassador Krelnax, your fleet has been disabled. Your crews are unharmed. Your life support systems are intact. You can drift here safely until rescue arrives, which we estimate will be in approximately 3 weeks. Or you can accept a tow to the edge of the system, where your flagship systems will carry you home. Krelnax stared at the screen, his 4 eyes wide with shock. How? How did you do this? Our intelligence said you were primitive. Your technology was supposed to be centuries behind ours. Marcus felt a deep sadness settle in his chest. We tried to tell you, Ambassador. We asked you to stay away. We didn't want to do this, but you came in peace, so we're letting you leave in peace. If you had come with violence, this conversation would be very different. This is an act of war. The Council will respond with everything we have. No, Ambassador, this is a warning. The only warning you're going to get. Marcus leaned forward, making sure Krelnax could see his eyes. Humanity developed these weapons 200 years ago. We stopped developing them because we didn't need to go any further. We know what we're capable of. That's why we isolated ourselves. That's why we warned you. We're not afraid of you. We're afraid of what we might do to you if you force our hand." He paused, letting the words sink in. "Take your flagship and go home. Tell the council what happened here. Tell them that humans asked once nicely to be left alone. Tell them we disabled your fleet in less than a minute without killing a single person. Tell them that next time, if there is a next time, we won't be so gentle." Marcus nodded to Torres, who cut the communication. The bridge was silent for a long moment. "Captain, the flagship is turning around," Torres reported. "They're heading out of the system. Let them go. Send recovery drones to the disabled ships. Make sure they have enough supplies to last until their rescue arrives. I want every council sailor to survive this. Every single one." Rachel stepped closer to Marcus, lowering her voice. "Do you think they'll actually learn from this?" Marcus watched the flagship retreat on the display, growing smaller as it fled the system. Behind it, the 49 disabled ships floated like monuments to arrogance. "I hope so," he said quietly, "because if they come back, Admiral Zhao won't send just me next time. She'll send everything, and these aliens have no idea what everything means." The Defiant remained on station, a single small ship that had just humiliated the greatest military force in the galaxy. Not through superior numbers, not through brute force, but through technology so advanced that the Council couldn't even comprehend it. Ambassador Krelnak sat alone in his command chair as his flagship limped toward the edge of the system. Behind him, his fleet drifted helplessly, waiting for rescue that would take weeks to arrive. The humiliation was complete, but worse than the humiliation was the fear. The humans had destroyed his fleet in seconds, and they had held back. They had shown mercy, which meant they could have done far worse. For the first time in his 200 years of service, Krelnax understood what it meant to be truly outmatched. And he was terrified. The Grand Assembly Hall of the Galactic Council was a masterpiece of architecture, built to inspire awe in anyone who entered. The ceiling rose 30 meters high, decorated with floating crystals that represented each member species. The floor was made of polished stone from a dozen different worlds, forming patterns that told the story of the Council's rise to power. Delegates from 47 species sat in their assigned sections, their various forms creating a tapestry of alien life. Today, that hall was filled with anger. Ambassador Krelnak stood at the central podium, his scales pale with stress. He had been speaking for an hour, recounting the events at Jupiter, and the disbelief in the chamber had slowly transformed into outrage. "Impossible," declared Representative Thornix, a crystalline being from the Rigel sector. "No single ship could disable 50 council vessels. Your sensors must have malfunctioned. Your crew must have panicked." "I have provided the complete sensor logs," Krelnax replied, his voice strained. "They are available for your review." "What I describe is exactly what happened. The humans warned us twice. We ignored them. They disabled our fleet in 47 seconds. Then you are a coward," growled Warlord Tharnok, rising from his seat. He was massive, 3 meters tall, covered in thick armor plating that was part of his biology. His species had conquered 12 worlds before joining the Council, and they viewed military might as the measure of all things. "You allowed primitives to humiliate the Council. You should have fought back, should have destroyed their pathetic ship." "With what?" Krelnak shouted, his composure finally breaking. "They disabled our weapons. They disabled everything. We were helpless floating targets, and they let us live. Don't you understand? They showed mercy. They could have killed us all." The chamber erupted into arguments. Some delegates demanded military action. Others called for investigation. A very few, suggested perhaps the humans should be left alone as they had requested. Chancellor Vornal, leader of the Council, raised his hand for silence. He was old even by his species standards, with gray skin marked by the scars of political battles that had lasted decades. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of authority. "Enough. We will not make decisions based on emotion." He turned to his military advisor. "General Vexrath, what is your assessment?" General Vexrath stood, his mechanical enhancements gleaming under the crystal lights. He was a veteran of 100 conflicts, and his tactical mind was considered one of the finest in the galaxy. He had been studying the sensor logs since they arrived. "Chancellor, based on the data, I believe Ambassador Krelnax's report is accurate. The humans used some form of nanotechnology to disable our ships. Our shields were designed to stop energy weapons and kinetic projectiles. They were never designed to stop molecular-level attacks." He paused, his enhanced eyes scanning through data streams. However, I do not believe this represents an insurmountable threat. The humans deployed this weapon from fixed platforms, not their ship. This suggests they cannot project such power at range. With proper preparation, a larger fleet could overwhelm their defenses. Then we attack, Tharnak declared. We assemble our full military force and show these humans what happens when they challenge the council. That would be unwise, came a quiet voice from the back of the chamber. Every head turned. Intelligence Officer Celine stepped forward from the shadows where her kind preferred to stay. She was small, barely a meter tall, covered in dark fur that seemed to absorb light. Her species specialized in information gathering, and they rarely spoke in council sessions unless they had something critical to say. Explain, Chancellor Vornal commanded. Celine activated a holographic display above the central podium. It showed a map of council space, with thousands of systems marked in various colors. She highlighted a section near human territory. 3 months ago, I began investigating anomalies in this region. Over the past 50 years, we have lost contact with 12 deep space survey missions. Small teams, 3 to 5 members each, sent to explore uninhabited systems. They simply vanished. No distress calls, no debris, just gone. She zoomed in on several systems. These disappearances occurred in systems that are now designated as human colonies. At the time, we assumed the survey teams encountered natural hazards. But I have since discovered something disturbing. The hologram shifted, showing communications data. For the past 60 years, we have detected unusual quantum communications in the regions around human space. Very faint, very brief, easily dismissed as background noise, except they weren't noise. They were human observation posts watching us, recording our movements, our technology, our tactics. The chamber fell silent. Celine continued, her voice steady. The humans have been in this region of space far longer than we thought. They did not just arrive. They have been here, hidden, learning everything about us while we learned nothing about them. Those survey teams did not encounter natural hazards. They encountered humans who did not want to be discovered. Are you suggesting the humans murdered our explorers? Someone asked. I am suggesting, Celine said carefully, that those explorers disappeared and now human colonies occupy those exact systems. Draw your own conclusions. Chancellor Vornal leaned forward. Why are you bringing this to our attention now? Because, Chancellor, I wanted to understand what kind of species chooses isolation over contact. I have spent 3 months studying every piece of data we have about humans, their radio transmissions, their cultural broadcasts, their historical records. What I found terrifies me. She changed the hologram again. This time it showed a timeline of human history. Wars upon wars upon wars. Conflicts that lasted decades. Weapons that could destroy continents. Near-extinction events caused by their own technology. Humans have been spacefaring for 300 years, Celine explained. But they have been killing each other for 10,000. Their entire civilization is built on conflict. They have fought wars with swords, with guns, with nuclear weapons, with biological weapons. They have developed and banned dozens of weapons because even they considered them too dangerous. She highlighted specific events. 250 years ago, they nearly destroyed their homeworld in something they called the AI crisis. Artificial intelligences they created for war turned against them. They won, but barely. 180 years ago, they fought a civil war in their own solar system that killed 2 billion people. They learned from every conflict. They adapted. They improved. The hologram showed the human expansion into space. When they finally achieved stable space travel, they made a collective decision. They would leave Earth and spread to empty systems. They would isolate themselves from other species. They would stop developing weapons because they had already created more than enough to destroy any threat they might encounter. This proves they are dangerous, Tharnak growled. All the more reason to strike now before they grow stronger. You misunderstand, Celine said, turning to face him. They are not growing stronger. They are holding back. The weapons they used against Ambassador Krelnax are 200 years old. They have not advanced their military technology in 2 centuries because they do not need to. What they have is already more than sufficient. She looked around the chamber, her dark eyes reflecting the crystal lights. The humans isolated themselves not because they feared us. They isolated themselves because they knew what they were capable of, and they did not want to inflict it on an unprepared galaxy. They gave us a warning because they were trying to protect us. That is speculation, General Vexrath said, though his voice carried less certainty than before. Is it? Celine pulled up another display. I have analyzed the attack on Ambassador Krelnax's fleet. The nanomachines were programmed with extraordinary precision. They disabled weapons, engines, and communications, but left life support, medical systems, and crew quarters completely untouched. They could have targeted the life support. They could have killed everyone in seconds. They chose not to. Even in combat, they showed restraint. Chancellor Vornal sat back in his chair, his expression thoughtful. Around the chamber, some of the anger had transformed into uncertainty, but not all of it. I have heard enough, Tharnok declared. This intelligence officer speaks of fear and caution. But the council was not built on fear. It was built on strength. The humans have humiliated us. If we do not respond, every primitive species in the galaxy will think they can challenge our authority. I call for a vote. We must assemble the full council military fleet and teach these humans their place. Seconded, said Representative Thornix. Chancellor Vornal looked at Celine, who stood quietly, her small form seeming even smaller in the vast chamber. Intelligence officer, do you have anything else to add? Only this, Chancellor. The humans gave us one warning, one chance to walk away. We did not take it. If we attack them with everything we have and we fail, there will be no third chance. We will have proven to them that we cannot be reasoned with, and based on everything I have learned about human history, they are very, very good at dealing with threats that cannot be reasoned with. The vote was called. The chamber filled with light as delegates cast their decisions. When it ended, the display showed the result. Admiral Helena Zhao stood in the command center deep beneath the surface of Luna, Earth's moon. The room was carved from solid rock, protected by meters of stone and advanced shielding. Holographic displays filled the air around her, showing the approach of the council fleet. 5,000 ships arranged in battle formations that stretched across light minutes of space. It was the most impressive military force she had ever seen. It was also doomed. Admiral, the council fleet will enter the outer defensive perimeter in 2 hours, reported. Commander David Park. General Vexrath is broadcasting demands for our surrender on all frequencies. Helena nodded slowly. She was tired, not from lack of sleep, but from the weight of what was about to happen. She had tried to avoid this. They had all tried. But some lessons could only be learned the hard way. Open a direct channel to the council flagship. Let me speak to their general one last time. The hologram shifted, showing General Vexrath in his command chair. His mechanical enhancements gleamed, and his eyes held the confidence of someone who commanded overwhelming force. Admiral Zhao, he said, his voice carrying the tone of someone offering a final mercy. I am General Vexrath of the Council Military Forces. You see our fleet. You know you cannot win. Surrender now and your people will be treated fairly. Resist and we will destroy every human colony we find. You have 1 hour to decide. Helena looked at him with something close to pity. General, 3 months ago we gave Ambassador Krelnax a warning. We asked him to stay away. He didn't listen and we disabled his fleet without killing a single person. We could have destroyed them all. We chose mercy. And now you face a real military force, not a diplomatic mission. Surrender, Admiral. General, I'm going to tell you something, and I need you to listen carefully. We didn't give that warning because we were afraid of you. We gave it because we were afraid of what we would do to you if you forced our hand. We have tried to avoid this, but you have come here with 5,000 ships and a demand for our surrender. So I will give you the same warning we gave Krelnax. Turn your fleet around. Leave our space. This is your final opportunity. Vexrath's mechanical features couldn't quite manage a sneer, but his tone conveyed it perfectly. Admiral, I command 5,000 ships. You have, according to our intelligence, maybe 300. You cannot possibly resist this force. Helena took a slow breath. We take no pleasure in this, General. We tried to warn you. Remember that. She closed the channel and turned to her command staff. Execute Operation Sanctuary. All defensive systems active. All offensive systems authorized. Rules of engagement disable and neutralize only. Minimize casualties where possible. Admiral, Commander Park said quietly. Are you sure? We could still negotiate. They brought 5,000 warships to our home, David. They're not here to negotiate. They're here to make an example of us. Well, they're about to get their example, just not the one they expected. The Council fleet advanced in perfect formation. Vexrath watched his tactical display with satisfaction. The humans had stayed silent for the past hour. Perhaps they were realizing the futility of resistance. Perhaps they were preparing to surrender. Either way, this would be over soon. "General, we're detecting energy spikes throughout the region," his sensor officer reported. "Thousands of them. It looks like the humans are activating some kind of network. They're defensive platforms, no doubt. The same ones they used against Krelnax. We expected this. All ships activate anti-nanite countermeasures. Seal all exterior surfaces. Prepare to engage." What Vexrath didn't know was that the nanites had been the gentle option, the warning shot. Humanity had spent 2 centuries developing weapons and then stopping when they realized they had gone far enough. What they were about to encounter represented the full spectrum of human ingenuity applied to the art of warfare. The first wave hit from unexpected angles. Not from platforms, but from small ships that seemed to appear from nowhere. They were using quantum slip drives, a technology the Council had theoretical knowledge of but had never successfully built. These ships could move through space in ways that violated conventional understanding of physics, appearing and disappearing like ghosts. The human ships didn't try to fight the Council fleet directly. Instead, they deployed weapons that bent reality itself. Causality mines bloomed across the battlefield. These devices created temporal distortions, causing ships to experience their own future collisions seconds before they happened. Council vessels found themselves avoiding impacts that hadn't occurred yet, their formation breaking apart as captains panicked and made random, evasive maneuvers. Gravity wells opened like hungry mouths. Dozens of Council ships suddenly found themselves pulled toward points in space where artificial singularities had been generated. The ships weren't destroyed, but they were trapped, their engines unable to overcome the gravitational pull. And then the humans deployed something the Council had no name for. Streams of exotic particles that passed through shields as if they didn't exist, disrupting the quantum bonds that held matter together. Ships didn't explode. They simply came apart, separating into their component atoms. Their crews evacuated by automated systems mere seconds before their vessels ceased to exist. In the command center on Luna, Helena watched the battle unfold with a sick feeling in her stomach. This was what humanity was capable of when pushed. This was why they had isolated themselves. "Status report," she ordered. "Council fleet has lost 20% combat effectiveness in the first 10 minutes, Commander Park reported. Another 15% are trapped in gravity wells. No Council casualties so far. Our automated systems are evacuating their crews before ship destruction. And our losses? 47 drones destroyed. No human casualties, Helena nodded. That was the key difference. The humans weren't in the ships. They had learned that lesson centuries ago. Why risk human lives when you could send machines that fought better anyway? On the Council flagship, General Vexrath stared at his displays in growing horror. His fleet was being systematically dismantled. Ships were disappearing from his formation like lights being switched off. And the human ships, those ghost-like vessels that appeared and vanished, were everywhere and nowhere. "All ships concentrate fire on those human vessels," he ordered. "Target them with everything we have." His fleet tried. Oh, they tried. Thousands of weapons fired at once, filling space with enough destructive energy to vaporize a moon. But the human ships were never where the weapons landed. They slipped through space like water through fingers, reappearing behind the Council lines, deploying more impossible weapons. "General, we've lost contact with battle groups 7 through 12, his communications officer reported, her voice rising with panic. "Battle groups 3 and 4 are requesting permission to retreat. General, we're losing." Vexrath's mechanical enhancements processed the battlefield data faster than any organic mind could. The conclusion was inescapable. They weren't just losing. They were being destroyed, and the humans were doing it without even putting their own soldiers at risk. "All ships, emergency withdrawal," he ordered, his voice hollow. "Get us out of here." But Helena Zhao had anticipated that order. The human ships shifted formation, appearing at the edges of the Council fleet, cutting off escape routes. Not to destroy the ships trying to flee, but to herd them, to control them. "Open a channel to General Vexrath," Helena ordered. When the general's face appeared on her screen, he looked like a being who had just seen the foundations of his worldview crumble. His mechanical features were locked in an expression of shock and disbelief. "General, I'm authorizing safe passage for any ship that surrenders," Helena said. "Power down your weapons and we'll escort you to the edge of our space. You can leave alive. All of you. Despite everything, we don't want to kill you." "How?" Vexrath asked, his voice barely a whisper.
How did we lose so quickly?
We had 5,000 ships. We had the best weapons the Council could provide. How did you destroy us in less than an hour? Helena looked at him with tired eyes.
Because, General, your species learned to fight in space 50 years ago.
Humans have been learning to fight for 10,000 years. We fought each other with every weapon you can imagine and many you can't. We nearly destroyed ourselves multiple times. And every time we learned, we adapted. We became better at the one thing we've always been good at, war. She leaned forward. When we finally made it to space, we brought all that knowledge with us. We built weapons that scared us. We created technologies that could end civilizations. And then we stopped because we realized we didn't need to go any further. What we had was already more than enough. The weapons you use today, Vexrath said. How old are they? 200 years, give or take. We haven't developed new military technology since the Treaty of Mars. We've focused on exploration, on building, on arts and culture, but we kept the old weapons just in case someone forced us to use them. Helena straightened in her chair. You brought 5,000 ships to our home and demanded our surrender. You left us no choice. But even now, even after you've tried to destroy us, we're offering mercy. Power down your weapons, surrender, go home. Tell your council what happened here. The Grand Assembly Hall was different than it had been a week ago. The floating crystals that represented member species seemed dimmer somehow. The polished stone floors reflected faces filled with shock and fear, rather than pride and confidence. Of the 47 species that made up the Galactic Council, every single representative was present. No one had dared to miss this emergency session. General Vexrath stood at the central podium, but he looked nothing like the confident military leader who had left to punish humanity. His mechanical enhancements seemed duller, and his posture spoke of defeat. Behind him on the massive holographic display, numbers told a story of catastrophe. 5,000 ships deployed, 2,700 destroyed, 1,800 disabled. 500 escaped mostly intact. Total council casualties, 12,000 dead, 43,000 wounded. Not from human weapons directly, but from accidents during the retreat, from systems failing, from the chaos of a military force that had been utterly routed. Total human casualties, 0. Chancellor Vornal sat in his elevated chair, looking older than his considerable years. He had called this session before General Vexrath had even made it back to council space. The recordings from the battle had reached them first, transmitted by the humans themselves along with a message. General, the Chancellor said quietly, please proceed with your report. Vexrath activated the holographic display. It showed the battle from multiple angles, recorded by council ship sensors. The assembly watched in silence as human ships appeared from nowhere, as weapons that bent reality itself tore through the council fleet, as the most powerful military force in galactic history was dismantled in less than an hour. When the recording ended, the chamber remained silent. No one spoke. What was there to say? The humans could have killed us all, Vexrath said finally. Every recording shows the same pattern. Their weapons targeted systems, not crew quarters. Their automated systems evacuated our people seconds before destroying our ships. Even in the midst of battle, even when we were trying to destroy them, they showed restraint. They showed mercy. How is this possible? Representative Thornix asked, her crystalline voice carrying a note of disbelief. How can a species we thought primitive possess such technology? They are not primitive, said a voice from the shadows. Intelligence Officer Celine stepped forward, her dark fur seeming to absorb the light. They never were. We just assumed they were because they did not match our expectations of what an advanced species should look like. She activated her own display, showing the information she had tried to present before the vote to attack. I warned this assembly that humans were different. I showed you their history of warfare, their technological capabilities, their deliberate isolation. You did not listen. So now I will show you something else, something the humans sent along with the battle recordings. The holographic display changed, showing a transmission from Admiral Helena Zhao. The assembly watched as she appeared, standing in what looked like a simple office. No grand displays of power, no impressive technology visible in the background, just a tired woman who looked like she had lived through too many difficult decisions. Members of the Galactic Council, the recorded admiral began. By now you have seen what happened to your fleet. You have seen how quickly and completely we defeated your attack. I want to make sure you understand what you witnessed, because your future and ours depends on that understanding. The display behind Admiral Zhao activated, showing a timeline of human history. It scrolled through thousands of years and seconds, and every century was marked by wars. Hundreds of them. Thousands of them. Humanity has been fighting since before we had written language, Admiral Zhao continued. We fought with stones and sticks. We fought with bronze and iron. We fought with gunpowder and nuclear weapons. We fought with biological weapons, chemical weapons, weapons that could kill millions in seconds. We became very, very good at fighting. The timeline reached the modern era, showing humanity's expansion into space. 300 years ago, we achieved stable space travel. We began to spread beyond Earth. And we made a collective decision. We would stop developing weapons, not because we couldn't create more powerful ones, but because we had already created more than enough. The display showed various human weapons, each one annotated with dates. Quantum slip drives, 215 years old. Causality mines, 190 years old. Gravity well generators, 180 years old. Matter disruptors, 205 years old. The weapons we used against your fleet are centuries old, Admiral Zhao said. We have not advanced our military technology in 200 years because we reached a point where we could destroy anything that threatened us. We stopped because we were afraid of what we might create if we continued. We were afraid of what we might become. The display changed again, showing council space and the small bubble of human territory. When we detected your transmissions 50 years ago, we could have announced our presence. We could have joined your council, shared our technology, participated in galactic civilization. We chose not to. Do you know why? Admiral Zhao leaned forward, her expression intense. Because we studied your history. We saw how you dealt with species that challenged your authority. We saw how you forced integration on unwilling civilizations. We saw the wars you fought, the species you conquered. And we realized that if we revealed ourselves, you would eventually try to control us. You would try to force us to submit. And we knew what would happen then. She paused, letting the words settle. We isolated ourselves to protect you. We stayed away from your space to avoid the conflict we knew was inevitable if we met. We warned you to stay away from Earth because we were trying to prevent exactly what just happened. The display showed Ambassador Krelnax's first contact, the disabled fleet at Jupiter, and finally the battle that had just occurred. We gave you 3 chances. We warned Ambassador Krelnax. We disabled his fleet without killing anyone. We warned General Vexarath. He ignored us, so we destroyed his fleet, and even then, we tried to minimize casualties. 3 chances. 3 warnings. And still you did not listen. Admiral Zhao straightened, her expression sad. I am sending you this message along with complete technical readouts of the battle. Every sensor log, every tactical analysis, every piece of data you need to understand what happened. I want you to study it. I want you to show it to your military experts, your scientists, your political leaders. I want everyone in the Galactic Council to understand what you faced. And then I want you to understand this. What you saw was 200 years old technology deployed by automated systems. We were not even in the ships that fought you. We sent machines because we did not want to risk human lives and because we knew machines would be more than sufficient. She paused. If you force us to deploy actual human forces, if you push us to develop new weapons, if you make us take warfare seriously again, you will not survive the encounter. The display showed Earth, beautiful and blue, hanging in space. We don't want to fight you. We don't want to conquer you. We don't want anything from you except to be left alone. We are tired of fighting. We have spent 10,000 years perfecting the art of war, and we are sick of it. We came to space to find peace, to build something better than what we had. Admiral Zhao looked directly at the camera, directly at everyone watching. So I am renewing the warning we gave you. Stay away from Earth, stay away from our colonies, stay away from our space. Mark it on your maps as forbidden territory. Tell every species in your council what happened when you ignored our first warning. Make sure they understand that we are not afraid of you. Make sure they understand that we are afraid for you. If you leave us alone, we will never bother you. We will pursue our peaceful expansion into empty space. We will develop our culture, our art, our science. We will become the species we want to be, not the species our history made us. She paused. But if you come to us again with demands, with threats, with warships, we will not show mercy a 4th time. We will do what we have always done when faced with an existential threat. We will adapt, we will innovate, and we will win. And you will not like what winning looks like for us. The recording ended. Admiral Zhao's face disappeared, leaving the assembly in silence. Chancellor Vornal was the first to speak. Intelligence Officer Celine, you tried to warn us. We did not listen. You have my apology, and my gratitude for your insight. Celine bowed her head. Chancellor, I recommend immediate action. We must declare human space as restricted territory. We must spread this information throughout the Council and to all known spacefaring species. The humans have shown remarkable restraint, but we cannot test that restraint again. I agree, said General Vexrath. His voice carried the weight of someone who had learned a terrible lesson. I went to human space with 5,000 ships and absolute confidence in our superiority. I returned with barely 500 and the knowledge that we were never in any real danger from the Council. We were the danger to ourselves. If the humans had wanted to destroy us, they could have. They chose not to. We owe them our lives, and we owe them the respect of heeding their warning.